messed up the permissions. Okie dokie. All right. Oh, I'm just going to edit that part out. Nobody saw it. Okay, you all. I wish the lighting was a little bit better here. It's a little bit grainy, but that is totally a-okay. Do 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 da do da do do. Okay. I'm wondering if I can put this in the corner. Waiting for folks to get on. Go sit down. Go sit down. Go sit down. I feel like dogs are always prepared to get you in trouble. Okay, y'all. Welcome on. Do. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome. I've got to do a better introduction to these, but we'll do them eventually. Okie dokie. Hey, y'all. Do. Hi. There we go. I see all the messages now. I had to pull them up for a second. So while we're waiting for folks to hop on, I'm going to try something different. And I am going to, how do I do this? I feel like every single class, we're just learning. We're just learning. Okay, here we go. Okay. I'm about to pull something up that I think will be useful. If I can just get it to cooperate. Okay. Okay, y'all, hold on one more second. I think I've got this figured out. I feel like this whole thing is just consistently a learning experience. Literally and figuratively. Okay. Okie dokie. Okay. Aha. Okay. I just figured out how to do something that I've been trying to figure out how to do for a very long time. So I'm very excited. So much excitement. Okay. Now I can put this up for y'all while we wait on folks. Thank you. They say Yor did it with a typo on purpose. They are stars. I don't know who else was good at drawing, who was not good at drawing stars, but I was not good at drawing stars. So this is my way of being silly and supporting imperfections. Okie dokie. There we go. Awesome. I have got to fix this background. Okay, so while folks are Um, getting on. Almost. There we go. Okay, perfect. While folks are getting on, I want to have folks kind of use their thinking caps in the meantime and get, able to start thinking while we're waiting on folks. I'm also trying to figure out how to customize this background. I love this software so much. I'm very, 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 very excited about it. Anyways, so while we're waiting, just to kind of get everybody like mentally prepared and, give us a chance to really get started, I want for those of y'all who are on to take a few minutes and just search this little class opener. So this is a thing I'm going to be doing now that I'm calling a class opener. Why won't it? It will not let me make this the way I want it to be. That's fine. Where we are going to have a little task for y'all to do to just get your brain moving. This one is find a US based organizer that led a disruption. Ooh, so fun. I'm having fun on this. Between the age of 20 and 35 and send it in the chat. So while we're waiting and getting everything settled for the next few minutes, go ahead and do that for me, please. I've got to add music onto here. Oh, you guys can see me messing around with this. Okie dokie. And just go on your little Google. Nothing stressful, nothing intense. Just a moment for us to gather our thoughts. I had to close this for a second, so I can't see if anybody has sent theirs yet. I'm like moving things around on my counter right now. Okay, here we go. Oop. Hold on. Oh God, what did I do? Okay, I'm trying to exit out of this little thing that they have me in on here. Okay, here we go. Yes, Angela Davis can count, but you could also include the disruption in there. Yes. Yeah, I think it's always great to include the year. It's just a good habit. And I'm not sure if anybody is on from TikTok. I don't think TikTok is working well with the restream, unfortunately. So I'm gonna have to go from here. Gunner, please stop making pitiful sounds. You sound really pitiful, baby. It's like really sad. Yes, yes, yes. Yep, I love all these coming in. I'll put them up here after people send some more in because I don't want people to just copy. Also, I'm like really trying to make this look better because I actually really, I don't understand why it's such a weird size. See, it like almost adjusts and then it just chooses not to. Okay, we're just gonna let it go. Hold on. If I go, ah, sorry, I don't know why I'm feeling very obsessive over making this how I want it to look. Okay. Yep, keep them coming in, y'all. Okay. Let me make a quick adjustment very quickly. So that way I can put, I don't think I can put multiple of these up at once. Gunner, stop. Sorry, you guys. Gunner's having an attitude problem today. I literally just got home from Atlanta and being out and about 40 minutes ago. Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Stop. Why do you sound so pitiful? Oh my gosh. Okay, come here. This is the baby that you guys hear right now whining in the background. So he's just going to sit here for a second. So first, we're going to go back to the front of this because I want for folks that have not already been introduced, since it's already been about 10 minutes, to be able to see. My name is Abiola Aguero, and this is Intro to Resistance. So we are going to continue to talk about different forms of resistance over the next few weeks. We're going to be diving into just different facets of what resistance movements mean. Oh, I just did something else. And what they can look like across different scopes. So this, he's so loud and so gross. This picture was almost specific and then it wasn't. So I'll go over these pictures at the end because I have different reasons for them. But I do always want for folks to really take in the graphics that I have up because I do spend a lot of time and energy more often than not trying to make sure that every aspect of what you're looking at was at the very least intentional and has some kind of purpose. So anytime you see a picture, feel free to ask a question about it. If you can identify the people in the picture, I always think that's great. And it's just, you can call it a little flex, little flexy flex, whatever you would like. Why are you like this? Whatever you would like to consider things. I'm sorry. I'm so distracted right now dealing with this baby. He's just like doing the most and I don't understand what your problem is. Can I help you? Like, what is your problem? Oh my god. Okay. Okay. And folks on TikTok, let me know how things are looking. Let me know if they're slow or not, because it's integrated kind of weird. So I'm trying to learn how to use this. Okay. Anyways, so make sure that you're always considering that. Now, with that being said, the question that I just had us look at was find a US-based organizer that led a disruption between the ages of 20 to 35. And you guys gave some great options. Of course, Fred Hampton was up here as a recommendation, starting the Black Panther Party Chicago. And of course, Angela Davis was up here. I'm trying to find the other Angela Davis. The Angela Davis specific. Here we go. Somebody said Angela Davis' involvement from the 60s to the 70s with the BLM movement, women's rights and prison abolition. Obviously, Black Lives Matter wasn't like the saying didn't exist then, but we're talking about it at least in, application. And no, you did not miss the history about cowboys. I see a question. You did not miss it yet. That is going to take another few days to get that together. So be patient with me. And Newpal is actually a friend. So somebody said Newpal Kiyozolu, which is very, very funny. I wonder if she's going to watch this later. Absolutely wonderful. John Lewis, 25 years old during the March on Bloody Sunday. The founders of Black Lives Matter, the organization, Alicia Garza, Patrisse Cullors, and Opal Tometi. and Marsha P. Johnson, multiple of these people that were really important. Oh, and I absolutely cannot leave out Miss Ida B. Wells, Batty in the highest manner. So these people are really important, and I probably will do more of these openers consistently just to get you looking, because another really important part that people don't talk about, and we have a whole lesson on this that's going to be coming in late April, because I'm hopefully going to have a special guest, is how our search algorithms actually influence our work. And the thing is, the more you start looking for this kind of information, the more that it's going to start coming to you. So the every single aspect of you pulling up, resistance work on your phone, your search engines, all these things, they are going to start becoming more consistent, and you'll start pulling up more radical information. And so I'm going to consistently get you all to be able to, shift your search engines. I did a little tester question a few months back on TikTok, which asked people to search the birth of a nation and tell me what they came up with. And the results were chilling, because they did not come up with anything that they either didn't come up with things that contradicted the conversation around the birth of a nation as there should have been, or they didn't come up with any information on the birth of a nation at all, aside from just some small little parts. So I have a lot of concern about these search algorithms, but that's why it's really important to be able to do this work. And again, sorry to be sidetracked again, but TikTok, let me know how this is looking and if it's lacking or not. All right, so now a reminder, again, I'm always going to keep reminding you guys, office hours are on Tuesdays. It didn't include the time for some reason, from 12 to 1 Central Time. Always come if you need to, if you have any questions, you want to talk about anything random. If people don't come, I just talk to myself, and I don't know if I want to just talk to myself. So if you can come and ask questions, all questions allowed. If you come and you just want to sit and watch, that's fine. You're just going to watch me talk to myself about whatever is most present on my mind. Okay. Anyways, now, so last week we touched on the map of resistance that I have been creating, but part of that map, I think, was a little bit less than clear for folks who were looking to engage further on the topic. And I got a lot of questions added towards the end of class. If you are watching this recorded, you can watch the end of the recorded class last time that's available on YouTube for replay to kind of get a gist of what was happening. But it was very good in a sense to see the questions that it elicited. And since this process is really great for me because I'm learning how to become better at my education prospects, and you all are also engaging in this content with me and learning, we're all learning together. I have been trying to learn better about little graphs and things. So I made an actual graph today that I'm very proud of. So we talked a little bit about the difference between resistance and revolution and how they aren't necessarily different, but how they can be, in a sense, separate and also the same. And that's a lot of jumbled words, but it's really important for us whenever we're looking at what resistance is, because if we don't actually know what a resistance looks like or the structures of it, we feel overwhelmed, right? If we see, he's panting and breathing so heavy, so apologize if you guys hear that heavy sound. If we see these different kinds of, resistances that exist, but we don't really understand how they're structured, then sometimes we feel like we have to do something specific in order to be a part of it, whether that's joining an organization or doing things in a way that feels particular or streamlined or necessary. And that can be really, really bad for actual movement building. And we'll talk a little about the end why. So, of course, at the top of this chart that took me an hour and a half to make, we have resistance. And when we talked about this last week, we talked about two different types. We talked about detached resistance and we talked about attached resistance. But when we talk about detached resistance, something that is really essential to us breaking it down properly is being able to look at the fact, there we go. Sorry, TikTok, you guys had a disruption. Being able to look at the fact that what we consider detached and attached is really, 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 really important, because it allows for us to approach and analyze the movements and the way that they are happening. And so for the chart purposes, what we have on here is I decided to restructure it. And instead of having the group first, we have the detached. So we have the form of resistance, whether or not it's attached or detached, and we have individual and group. And on Sorry, I don't know why this is just not cooperating on here. TikTok doesn't want us to be great. We have the individual and the group. On the other side, we have our attached resistance, and within that, we have, again, individual or a group. Now, there are some other offshoots that I'm going to include in this soon enough that I think are going to be helpful, but obviously, we are going to have to continually kind of, you know, move forward in a way to make sure that you are actually able to digest the information. I talked a little bit about this office hours earlier today, is that comprehension matters so much in this, which is why asking questions is essential. It's why I make sure that there are lots of opportunities to ask questions. But with that being said, dropping too much information at once is also not going to be beneficial. So this is part one of the chart, and it'll also give me enough time to actually make the second part of the chart, since I am learning how to use these charting softwares, and it took me a very long time to figure out how to do this one step at a time. Okay, TikTok, you guys should be back up and live. Now, when we have all of this together, this is what it ends up looking like. All at once, we have our resistance, we have detached, attached, and then the different offshoots on each side. So each one of those offshoots will serve a really important purpose as we move forward. Now, today we're going to focus on attached. I think detached is something that is going to be easier to understand once we have the actual attached part more broken down, because to me it's easier for us to learn from that direction. If at any point, though, somebody feels like it might be more beneficial to go the other direction, I will send you some information that will help if it will help you process things better. But for our purposes, for what we're doing right now, we're going to go from right to left whenever it comes in reference to the chart. Oh my God, you are breathing so heavily and it's very distracting. What is your problem? You're making it very hard to focus. You just leaned over and burped in my face. Okay. I'm sorry, y'all. Just, do I need to put you up? Because I felt bad for you because you were howling. I've been gone for 5 days and he was sad about it. But now he's burping in my face and panting very heavy. Do you need to go back up? Because I'm having a really hard time focusing with you squirming and breathing. This is unprofessional. Okay. Anyways. Okay, so we're going to work from that direction to the other direction. Oh, okay. So when we talk about... I can't. He was making such weird noises when I was about to go live, and I was like, I can't have him in the background going because it's gonna sound miserable. So I'm trying to do this because he's gonna make sad noises if I don't. Oh my God. Okay. So when we talk about you can't hear him breathing, okay, that's good because his breath smells so bad. He's a rescue. We got him with messed up teeth, and his breath it stinks. He's such a sweet boy, but he has the stinkiest breath I've ever smelled in my entire life. Okay, I'll let him hang out. Well, he's right here, so we'll see if he keeps being weird. So, in the attached work, we have what I'm going to choose as an offshoot as the movement versus the organization. And often, whenever we have conversations about what is going on, you will see slogans and things that are attached or detached to a movement, but that also maybe are attached or detached to an organization. Now, I didn't get the chance to make the other half of the slide on this because I accidentally it got removed before I was trying to upload it, which is fine for now, because I think it's going to be more useful for us to stop and look at pictures anyways. So what I think is going to be a great example of this, unless it did include it. No, it did not. It's fully blank. Okay, so what are some examples before I actually give you some all of what you can think of whenever I talk about a movement versus an organization? I want you guys to put your thinking caps on. When I talk about a movement versus an organization, what makes the most sense? What immediately comes to your mind first? Again, I really have to have Jeopardy music. Oh my God, you almost hung up. Do 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 do. Thinking. The question is, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when we talk about the movement versus an organization? A movement versus an organization. You can talk about, anything in terms of what pops up in your mind first, whether it's an example, whether it's a definition. I kind of want to make sure that I'm meeting you all exactly where you're at when it comes to this. Seeing some great things come in. Okay, I see some things filtering in. We got some things. Okay. Okay. Oops, we're going this way. Okay, there we go. Awesome. We've got some great ones, so I'm going to go ahead and jump off on there. So this definition from Cirrus is an organization has some legal definition to the state or federal government, like a nonprofit or a church. I think that's definitely something that's great is to look at. And this is going to actually tie in really well to this, which says from an Anaid, I think that's the correct pronunciation. If it's not, let me know. SNCC or Cynic is the abbreviation that people use to refer to it, versus being in the civil rights time period. Now, Cynic is one of the most well-known civil rights organizing groups of the entire civil rights era, but also leading up into the 90s. And it still exists now, but its role kind of changed, especially as the initiators grew old and, we have new things that come up. Next example is a movement can have people from KITA acting independently towards the same goal, and an organization is much more structured, people meeting up to plan regularly. Yes and no, but also yes. We have Human Rights Coalition and Queer Communities. Hillman Talk movement versus the quest for an organizational structure. Yes. We've got Gabby giving an example of movement is action, and an organization plans that maps out those movements. That's a very interesting perspective. And then we have movement has to have several fronts, made organizations, individuals, which would be, I'm guessing you might say attached versus unattached. So these are all great examples, but the one that I think is going to be the easiest for people to make more tangible is the BLM movement versus the organization. Now, if you look up the phrase, okay, I cannot type with one hand very well. Why did you just lick my finger? If you type in the phrase Black Lives Matter, and you type in money, what is the first thing that is going to come up? Even on most regular search forums, you are going to see the money that was raised in 2020 by the Black Lives Matter organization. Now, Black Lives Matter was started by 3 brilliant Black women, ignore the typos, named Patrisse Cullors, and I don't know why my brain just deleted the other 2. Wow, they're not coming up first on here. Interesting. There we go. So Patrisse Cullors, Opal Tometi, and Alicia Garza. Apologies for having those slip my brain. And these 3 women decided to start this movement not only with the use of a hashtag, which was hashtag Black Lives Matter, but they started to use it in order to specifically bring attention to the fact that Black lives were being degraded when it came to police brutality. This is an important distinction because we're going to talk about a lot of different kinds of movements and the origins of those movements. And especially whenever we talk about Black-led organizations, being able to understand the specific area that started in order to help it in order to help the issue is really important. Now, when you look at BLM and money, part of the reason why I'm searching this is because in 2021, there was a very large conglomerate of, we'll say, negative press that talked about the purchasing that was used of the money from the Black Lives Matter organization. Now, I'm not here to talk at all about what they did or didn't do, because I think that it's unproductive for a lot of reasons. And it ends up really just being down to semantics. So that's really not what I'm here to do. But being able to recognize the difference between a movement and an organization and how the two affect one another is really essential to being able to effectively look into long-term movements. So when you look this up, right, you will see the conversation around a mansion purchase in 2021, and they will say the BLMGN. So they're talking about the Black Lives Matter organization. Global Network Foundation is what it's called. But even if you type in Black Lives Matter movement and you type in money, not with a typo, you're going to get the exact same overview that talks about the Black Lives Matter Global Network, even though we're talking about the movement. When you look at the difference between the organization and the movement, they can affect one another, but they can also take away from one another. Black Lives Matter being started in terms of a phrase was directly related to these three women that chose to use something that was short, simple, but powerful, to use it to call to action for people to recognize the validity of Black lives. But once they formed the organization, that quote, that phrase, that saying was then associated with that, and not necessarily could be separated from the movement. And so whenever you look back and you see anything in relating to Black Lives Matter, people have a hard time distinguishing between the movement of Black Lives Mattering and the organization, to the point where people feel like sometimes if they worked with Black Lives Matter, an organization, or an organization that was affiliated with them, they had basically done the work, generally speaking. Or on the flip side, if something negative happened in regards to the organization, that the movement itself was not worthy. This issue that arose, then I want to be cautious with my language, in 2020 and 2021 ended up making it to where a lot of these searches that came up talked about right here what you see about scrutiny and lack of transparency. So if you talked to people like on the streets, I have a lot of conversations with people every single day in my movement work. I'm also just chatty, and sometimes people come and think I'm chatty whenever I am chatty. So I have a lot of conversations, and especially when it talks to older white crowds, whenever I had a sticker or something that said Black Lives Matter, they would say, well, didn't that steal a whole bunch of money? And I would say, hey, that's an organization, but the movement also exists. And that doesn't mean that every bit of money that was related to the Black Lives Matter movement went to the organization. And they did not understand that. It was really kind of astonishing to realize that many people will refer to something as a single term in the back of their mind, and they can't dissociate. Disassociate. This is so unhelpful right now, this little one. Dissociate between the two and separate them and really understand the difference. And that's an issue with a lot of the work that you see in the movement space, is people being able to recognize or not being able to recognize two separate entities, two separate movements, two separate anything, because they put them together. So with that being said, whenever you see an organization that kind of becomes its name, the movement becomes the name of the organization. And I'm not saying Black Lives Matter should or shouldn't be anything. It really can affect how the goal is or isn't achieved. The phrase Black Lives Matter became so widespread and so used that while it has been so impactful in being able to bring attention to it, there are still a lot of people that don't recognize the fact that it is something like a civil rights movement. Now, when we talk about SYNIC, which is the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. This was in the 1960s, 1970s, 1980s. One of the foremost organizations that, again, like ever existed during this time period for being able to really fight racial injustice. You won't see the phrase SNCC associated with a movement. It is going to be looked at very differently. Whereas if you look up the civil rights movement, there'll be multiple organizations and things that pull up. It's not going to be attributed just to one place. So see, when we pull up civil rights movement, you see Voting Rights Act, you see the Civil Rights Act, you see the March on Washington, you see the Montgomery bus boycott, you see Brown v. Board. And of course, everybody's search engines can be hit a little bit differently, but generally speaking, when you search up the word civil rights movement, the attribution is not going to just be to something like SYNIC or even just to Martin Luther King Jr. or the other major figures of the era. And part of this difference is because of the organizations and how many organizations at the time were organizing this type of movement across the country. Now, there were not less organizations during 2020, and I'm hoping to dive into this a little bit more, probably in approximately 3 weeks, in talking about the different types of organizations that exist. But at this time period in the 1960s, especially, there were so many different facets being used that people were not necessarily going to just see one aspect or another. So you have people that talk about the bus boycotts versus you have people that talk about, the Brown v. Board of Education lawsuit, and they're going to associate both those with the civil rights movement, but they're not going to associate them with one person or one group because of the different targeting that were being used at the time period. Recently, with the way that our media coverage has changed significantly, you will typically see something being put in one area. And I hope I'm articulating this well today. But it's just really important to look at these things. And with all of this, being said, I'm trying to find this. The way that we do or don't separate movements from people or movements from organizations can make a big difference in how those movements are or aren't effective. So I'm going back to this. So when we talk about attached forms of revolution, you can have the movement and the organization, and they can be working together with one another, or they can also be separate entities. And being able to look and see whether or not the movement started something in general, or the organization started the movement, or the movement led to the organization, is really useful for seeing what came when. Now, this is not a situation of like the chicken or the egg, right? It's not that kind of situation where we're going to be arguing philosophically what matters when. But being able to look and see if a movement triggered an organization, or if an organization helped trigger a movement, helps you see strategy-wise what does or doesn't work long term. If I go back to talking about Sinek, Sinek was known for helping launch the lunch counter sit-ins during the civil rights era. Now, this was where they would go to an area that was whites only at a lunch counter, and they would sit there and refuse to leave. Not only did it piss off the white racist customers, but it also was a very strong, visible act of resistance. And when they started doing their lunch counter sit-ins, it helped spark a lot of lunch counter sit-ins. Oh my God, why are you guys like this? Sir, I have been up since 3 a.m. It helped spark. This is the most unproductive class I think we've had so far. It helped spark many more lunch counter sit-ins. But Sinek was not the first place to do lunch counter sit-ins. You can actually attribute lunch counter sit-ins all the way back to the time period of enslavement, because of the fact that there were multiple places that were not allowed to be integrated, especially when it came to food, but enslaved people still forced their way into there. So when we think about Sinek and we say that the lunch counter sit-in started there, what it does is it makes it seem like the idea wasn't possible before. But the difference being with Sinek's lunch counter sit-ins and the prior is the different legal stances that were taken because of those actions. Back in that time period, whenever we had enslaved people that were fighting and using this kind of form of integration, unfortunately, they are multiplying. It was a lot harder to find the legal grounds for arguing for being able to sit in a place with white folks, and in general with folks who would just not be considered a part of the enslaved community. And so during that time period, you would not have had the legal grounds, versus Sinek's luncheon count sit-ins were actually useful for a legal stance because of the fact that legally there were rules saying that those people, right, and that's some of the language, could not sit at the same lunch counter but could sit at their own. These sit-ins challenged that legal precedent, whereas the sit-ins that existed before that enslaved people held didn't challenge a legal precedent necessarily, they challenged more of a social precedent. And so that's a moment where you can see that some of the movements and the organizations impacted one or the other. And so when we talk talk about a movement versus an organization. It's a really interesting and kind of complex thing that I want to spend more time going over, because I think there's so many examples of where we can see this existing. Because while the lunch counter sit-ins didn't originate with the organization, and the lunch counter sit-ins didn't necessarily start the organization was able to create a very specified movement from there. So because of Senec's work, they were able to make a larger movement of people forcibly integrating places. And it's really complex in the sense that it allows for us to think what would have been necessary to create a movement of forced integration. Would the lunch counter sit-ins have been necessary, or would Senec's existence have been necessary to start the lunch counter sit-ins? Yes. So this is what I get for being gone for this many days. Y'all, I have literally been up since 3 a.m., a flight and a 5-hour drive. Okay, so I am hoping to dig up some more examples of this over the next couple of days, because I want to map out a little bit more on this, but I want for this initial part to be in your heads, because I want for you all to start thinking when you see something, would I have considered this, let's go back for a second, a movement or an organization, or both? And what would the origin be? And that's going to be part of our assignments. Thank you. I'm glad the it helped you with a light bulb moment. Wonderful. We're going to start having these conversations a lot more. And as I am learning how to do these beautiful graphs, I'll be able to give you guys a full mind map of these out along the course. Now, for this past week, because I am probably going to give us a 10-minute early release, there is a third doggo. There, Nugget. This is a very ADHD heavy session today. Nugget. Nugget. Come here. Here, come here. Where are you? Okay. There you go. You get your wish. Okay. So, this past week's assignment was, I don't know if you guys can even see them, was multiple video multimedia approaches for you guys to pick from your sections. Nugget is right here. There we go. And so I gave you the option out of multiple groups. I think it's what, 7 groups? 6 groups, to pick what you wanted to watch and do some summaries. And so for this week's assignment, we are going to pick another category, but we're going to answer it with the mindset of being able to focus. Thank you for licking my nose. Being able to focus a little bit more on what we see as a movement versus what we see as an organization. I do have a bouquet of dogs. There are actually 2 more, but they live in Atlanta. Or else I would have them here too, but I just left them and they are hilarious as well. So if you didn't get to do last week's assignment yet, I want for you all to get this on your mind, to get it done, because it's not too crazy. What I asked was for people to summarize the video sections in 50 words or less, and to talk a little bit more about how they feel like these individuals versus these moments of these individuals were able to interact with one another. This is cracking me up. So some of the examples that I included were Henry Box Brown, and we'll do a separate lesson after you guys are actually able to look at this. I'm hoping people will pick this for one of their next ones. And William and Ellen Craft, phenomenal. Harriet Jacobs, who I've talked about multiple times. Ida B. Wells, and oh Jesus, Nat Turner, and Robert Smalls. So for this week's assignment, you're going to pick one of the categories that you did not get to do previously. And if you weren't able to do the past assignment, I'll send you an alternative set of options in the morning to try and help to consolidate what your options will be. Please don't climb on my shoulder. Thank you so much. I'm glad you thought the assignment was fun. Y'all are so unhelpful today. Oh my God. Okay. Okay. So, what was I looking for? Hold on. Okay, there we go. So, with that being said, because this is very chaotic, so I'm so glad you guys are enjoying this today. Do not forget, you can request a book from this link. You can donate to buy books from the other link. In 2 weeks, we'll be starting on the book list that I sent you all out previously because I can finally finish mailing off the last couple of books for those people who requested physical copies. And so you'll be able to read along because we are going to be starting on Negroes with Guns. And that will be probably one of the easiest works to help everybody get into it because of how easy of a read it most definitely is. Did I have anything else on here? No, I did not. Those are just accidental graphics. Okay, y'all. Any questions in the last few minutes? Any questions at all? It is so hot. They have so much hair. Oh my God. Any questions? Oh, Jesus. Okay. Gunner, you're still not sitting still. Thank you so much on TikTok. I appreciate it. Any questions from those of y'all before I sign off and sleep in a regular bed for the first time in a week? Oh, Jesus. It's never too late to request a book. Never too late to request a book. You can always go on and request a book. Resend the reading list? Yes, I will. I will resend. Let me take a screenshot of that to remind myself. It's kind of a preliminary reading list because I gave you guys a partial syllabus until I could finish planning out the rest of my March because I have a lot of work things planned. Why are you like this? So now that I've had my last 2 events confirmed, I'll be able to actually finalize what I'll be teaching when. Yes, next time is going to be another documentary, so you can pick another section of videos that you didn't pick before and use that. You got some of the books out of the library. Yeah, you can read, if you want to go ahead and read the books in whatever order, you can definitely do it. I'm never going to tell people don't read something yet. So if that helps you to kind of spark some curiosity, most definitely do that. The biggest thing is try not to make, not that you can't make conclusions, because I definitely encourage independent learning, but if something feels extremely complicated, don't try to simplify it by minimizing the complications, if that makes sense. So if you feel stressed and you're looking at it, you're like, hey, this doesn't make sense, so I'm just gonna tell myself that maybe this doesn't matter, this does matter. Don't do that. Just allow yourself to sit in the confusion. It is actually okay to sit in confusion. Can you, why do you keep chaos? This is the child. This is the youngest one. He's an agent of chaos. No problem. I'm glad you guys got to enjoy the puppies. I will be sleeping. You guys are not getting an email tonight. You're definitely going to get it in the morning. Because I am tired and the plane rides and everything the last 56 hours have been a lot. So I'm excited. All right. Well, thank you all for joining me for this class. This will be available on live replay. Oh, dogs' names. So this is Echo, but it is spelled with a K, E-K-O, because of the fact that we are also Nigerian on my daddy's side. And Echo is a really cool area in Nigeria. I also just really love the term Echo. Echo Beach is also one of my favorite beaches that I ever went to. So this is Echo. Oh God, don't pee on anything. This is Nugget. This is the mother. Nugget is mama. She is also chaotic. This is the scariest dog that we have in this house. There are 4 70-pound dogs. This one is scarier. This is the scariest one. This is who I would take into battle if I was going into war. She's also the noisiest dog in this entire house. And she has 3 children. Weirdo. Okay. And this is the least helpful dog in this house. His name is Gunner. He is the daddy of Echo. He's also the daddy of Coach Kate's and Puff Puff, who you guys have maybe met if you've seen them, but a lot of people can't tell them apart, which is hilarious. Gunner is the rescue, which is why he has the stinkiest breath in the entire world. But he's very happy. He went from not knowing how to jump to now leaping off of things across the entire house. It's very fascinating watching a dog learn how to leap. But the problem is they learn how to leap. So, anyways, yes. And come here, Butterball. Hold on. One more is here. Butter. It was Big Dog. Butter, come on. Say goodnight to class. Come on. Oh, Jesus. Come here. Thank you. This is the dog that just traveled with me because this is my service animal, Butterball, who does a multitude of tasks. He is very large. Hello. He also doesn't do very well on camera. It's not really his specialty. He's actually very bad at taking pictures. He turns around backwards when you try and take them. Ah! And he has zoomies from a bath. And now I have hair all over from me. So I'm glad you all enjoyed that today. There are your doggy introductions. Butter did make it in time. You guys can meet Princess and Pickles and Delilah later, but you guys have, if you've watched videos, you've already seen Pickles at the very least. So, you know, okay, I'm gonna go wash this off. I will talk to you all later. Thank you for your patience, your attention, everything. Y'all are abso-freaking-lutely phenomenal. And I'm glad you got to enjoy the doggy send off. He is a good pupper. He's a very good pupper, and I'm grateful to have him, especially flights back to back. And it was cold in the last airplane ride, and I didn't have his blanket on the floor, so it was a lot. Thank y'all. There's so much hair. Have a great, wonderful night, and send me any questions if you have them, and you can look forward to all your assignment information tomorrow. I will see you lovelies later.